Good evening, dear Kuwait television viewers, and welcome to another new episode of your weekly program, Kuwait in 30 Minutes. The English News and Political Programs Department has prepared a variety of reports that highlight the main events that have recently taken place across Kuwait. Our committed team of reporters is constantly engaged in numerous events with the objective of keeping you, dear viewers, aware of the latest information, regulations, and policies. Our aim is to help you obtain information on the latest developments at the local scene. So stay tuned for more coming your way this evening. In light of the COVID-19 crisis, which overshadowed the various aspects of life, many Kuwaitis have stepped forward to volunteer for work in cooperative societies. Between the past and the present, there are people who experienced the crisis of invasion, and now they are standing by cooperative societies to confront the virus. Adil Fahd brings us more.
The associations were a place to meet the youth of the resistance during the brutal invasion, as well as with the same men to supply the state with assistance in these emergency circumstances.
I lived through the two phases. During the invasion of Iraq, we were dealing with an unjust army. We did not know whether or not we will ever return. There was no safety. But now, with government directives, volunteers are obligated to follow instructions for their safety. The panic buying was affecting the strategic inventory. But now, with the policy of the Kuwaiti government, headed by His Highness, we have been provided with moral aid. Alhamdulillah, praise be to God, Allah Almighty.
Out of pain, hope is born. This wisdom applies to what Kuwait witnessed from its people, who give the most wonderful examples of patriotism in the COVID-19 crisis. Between the past and the present, there are men who affirm their love for Kuwait through their participation in these events to face the crisis.
We opened the door to volunteering before we entered the emergency phase, and praise to Allah, we received a large number of volunteers. We divided the volunteers into two parts, which is a team trained for the morning period. As for the evening period, the members of the board of directors are going to be doing their part as well alongside the volunteers from the region.
They became the bright face of Kuwait, which gives hope to continue life as we once know it, and the ending of the crisis by God's willing. Reporting to Kuwait in 30 minutes, this is Adil Fahd.
The Ministry of Health continues its intense efforts to receive people arriving from abroad at Al Quds quarantine as it attracts a large number of equipped medical and technical personnel. Great efforts made by the medical staff working quarantines through continuous work around the clock. Our reporter has more in the following report.
The medical team continues to work day and night in Al Quds quarantine to provide needs for people coming from abroad.
This is the Al Quds hotel quarantine. We started here on the 25th of March. We received almost 300 guests since then. Most of them have left home because of a negative tests. Some of the positive test guests went to the hospital. And we still have another batch we're supposed to test again, or we do the exit swab for them.
Everyone works in quarantine, not only the citizens. There are doctors and nurses who are keen to be in the first lines of facing COVID-19.
It's a happy feeling to serve the people, even not in the same nationality. We are human. This is the promise to our profession, regardless of nationality, religion, all these things. We have to serve. This is a call of duty.
The Ministry of Health and its medical staff are keen to provide all the energy they have to fight infection and reach safety. This is Hadil Fahad reporting to Kuwait in 30 minutes.
The Ministry of Social Affairs continues its campaigns in cooperative societies to check on the availability and quantity of supplies. The leaders of the ministry conducted an inspection tour of the Al-Qadsiya Co-op Society to ensure its cooperation within the government policies to combat the coronavirus COVID-19. Here's more in the following report.
In continuation of the campaigns of the cooperative societies to check on food and products and ensure their availability in the required quantities and review the strategic stock, a number of officials of the Ministry of Social Affairs made an inspection tour on the Qadsiya Co-op Society.
The primary goal of the inspection tour is to ensure food security and strategic storage, and to ensure that there are backup schools and that the association's labor operates within the residential area, in compliance with the health authorities' instructions, and we have noted effort, activity, and welcome from the association's volunteers.
The Ministry of Social Affairs continues to play its vital role through inspection teams that work throughout the week to check on the mechanism of associations in the government work mechanism to combat COVID 2019. Reporting to Kuwait in 30 minutes, this is Hadil Fahad.
People showed their true colors as well as their courage and the will to sacrifice when crisis hit their countries. This is what happened during the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait, and this is what's happening now with all the voluntary bodies providing support to the authorities to overcome the coronavirus outbreak. Many volunteers are rushed to work without hesitation in quarantine areas to meet the needs of the government and citizens during the lockdown. Our reporter Hadid Fad brings us more.
Voluntary efforts are rising in these circumstances that the country is going through in all of Kuwait. Many official authorities showed cooperation, including the quarantine in Fahil.
My job here is just to coordinate how things go with the Ministry of Health and the residents. We try and take their suggestions and offer it to the workers here in the ministry. And we try our best to make them feel safe and comfortable, because I know like in these times they are panicking, which is usual because like the world is in a pandemic.
Volunteers are racing to serve Kuwait in all areas in support of the official authorities working at these times.
Our job is more logistics to help them by providing the residents with all of their needs.
Volunteers strive around the clock to pay their national and humanitarian duty while adhering to health protection. Reporting to Kuwait in 30 minutes, this is Hadil Fahad.
In light of the current exceptional circumstances in which medical teams stand in the front rows during their humanitarian role against the threat of the COVID-19 virus, the Kuwait Medical Association launched a voluntary initiative to provide preventive supplies for the medical teams. Here's more in the following reports.
a voluntary initiative that dedicates an important and effective role to the Kuwaiti Medical Association, as it provided important preventive supplies for medical teams facing the risk of COVID-19 in the front rows.
The Kuwait Medical Association had this, let's say, voluntary event to support the doctors from different aspects. We're just saying to the government, to the Ministry of Health, we're supporting you, pay attention to our doctors, and we're presenting here a little gift to the doctors with essential elements for personal protective equipments.
The initiative comes at an important time when these requirements are necessary. The association has made great efforts in the past weeks, including coordination with local factories to provide personal protection materials. This is Hadil Fahad reporting for Kuwait in 30 minutes.
Huge efforts are being made by the Public Authority for Industry as it oversees the factories that stood by the state in these exceptional circumstances. Al Johan factory announced it had increased its production of protective materials due to its high market demand. Our correspondent has more.
Due to the increasing demand for it, preventive materials and sterilizers against the coronavirus suffered from shortages in the stores of many countries of the world. Kuwait was no exception, as the need is urgent in all countries of the world. Kuwait factories took the initiative and felt responsible of providing the market's need for these materials.
We are one of the suppliers for the Ministry of Health of Kuwait for the main products in hand rub sanitizers. This is a worldwide virus, and it is suddenly happened across the world. All countries are trying to protect their citizens and their countries. Kuwait government took an action, fast speed action, to try to protect Kuwait and Kuwaitis and the residents in Kuwait.
Our production has been increased 5 times, especially for the hand rub, and now we are producing almost around 50,000 bottles for the hand rub daily.
Many countries of the world resorted to banning the export of their sterilizers and protective materials, which made factories raise their production rate, in addition to research and develop their plans.
First, the quality control will check on them based on specifications. Then it comes here, and these raw material are ethanol, and they are specific for the sanitizer.
Due to the curfew conditions in Kuwait, the factories provided electronic services as well.
There will be personal sanitizers, antiseptics, disinfectants, tissues, and batteries. And this is the operations room.
Huge efforts are being made by the Public Authority for Industry. From Al Shaiba, this is Hadil Fahad reporting for Kuwait in 30 minutes.
Efforts continued for the evacuation of citizens stranded abroad, which started as the largest evacuation in the history of Kuwait. The process, which was being prepared at all levels, enabled citizens to return to the country amid health measures to ensure their safety. Here's more in the following report.
The largest evacuation in the history of the state of Kuwait was launched for citizens abroad under the direction of His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah, as it continues to the 7th of May next on 5 stages and distributed over to Airport Building 4 of Kuwait Airways and Al Jazeera Building. The first phase, which ends on April 21, is dedicated to evacuating the people who were present for the purpose of tourism and have completed their treatment. Nearly 40,000 citizens have registered since the launch of the electronic platform Maakum by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which is dedicated to the registration and the classification of cases. Efforts continued at all levels to ensure the return of citizens in the best conditions that guarantee their health and safety and enable them to fast the holy month of Ramadan between us. From Kuwait International Airport, T4, this is Hadil Fahad reporting for Kuwait in 30 minutes.
The Kuwait Oil Tanker Company has been maintaining its production flow as usual and was not affected by the current crisis caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. It has also put in place several strategies to guarantee that its production won't be interrupted. On regular days, the plant produces an average of 30% of their capabilities, which in other words mean that they can triple their production whenever the situation requires. Here's more with Saleh Al-Abedi.
The Kuwait Oil Tanker Company is the biggest supplier of LGP gas in Kuwait. They have been producing gas to meet the demands of homes, businesses, and commercial institutions. Since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, the management have set up a plan to ensure that the production will continue to be steady and consumers won't be affected by the lack of LGP supply.
At the beginning, we should know that Kuwait Oil Tanker Company taking all the measures and safety precautions but demonstrated by the Ministry of Health by taking all the temperature for all the employees who are coming inside our plant, and they give them also, as you see, the gloves and masks during the entrance. Also for the sanitizing process, we have sanitizing process for all cylinders coming from outside for in and out during the incoming and ongoing. We do it twice at times for the cylinders, so this is sanitization. And for the filling process, it's as usual, normal filling process, nothing to dispute since the coronavirus crisis.
The team at KOTC have created several groups of professionals that arrive and leave in the same time, and the entire plant, including the transportation vehicles, are sanitized within every visit to the plant. That includes gas cylinders themselves.
As soon as we started the operation in our filling plant after the coronavirus crisis, we were depending almost, let's say, 80 to 90% of the Kuwaitis. This is one of the reasons why during any crisis we suppose to depend on our Kuwaiti nationalities and Kuwaiti manpower. We realized that the Kuwaitis are capable of doing their jobs properly. Also, that doesn't mean we are still have like a small percentage of the foreigners. They are supporting the Kuwaitis, but mostly all the operation is being done by the Kuwaiti nationality.
Officials have also stated that they are experimenting with a 100% Kuwaiti team just in case of an emergency. The production will continue as normal and the consumers won't be affected. Moreover, the KOTC meets the demands of the nation by producing 30% of their capability. Therefore, they can increase their production whenever it is required. This was Saleh Abedi reporting for Kuwait English News.
Since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, around 1,500 volunteers have signed up with the Red Crescent Society in efforts to provide service to their community. The volunteers are helping the Red Crescent in distributing food supplies and essentials to families who are in need at their headquarters in Shuwaykh. Saleh Al-Abedi has more.
The Red Crescent Society in Kuwait has been actively distributing meals for thousands in different areas in Kuwait, in efforts to give back to society and to ensure that recipients are getting their daily nutritious needs met. In their campaign in Mahboula, the Red Crescent Society has distributed approximately 2,700 meals.
We're handing out meals to the people in need in Mahboula, and we're keeping them 2 meters apart. And the meal it's a full lunch meal provided with rice, porridge, fruits, and a drink. And we're advising them to stay at home and avoid gatherings.
The campaign was well organized as the volunteers ensured that they are following the health guidelines provided by the Ministry of Health and the World Health Organization, as recipients are required to keep a distance of 2 meters between each other, and volunteers are also handing out information leaflets expressing the importance of staying at home and to avoid gatherings.
The Kuwait Red Crescent Society is providing 2,600 meals here in Mahboula. This was Sahir Abedi reporting for Kuwait in 30 minutes.
Unfortunately, this brings us to the conclusion of tonight's episode of Kuwait in 30 minutes. We hope to see you again same time next week. Our highly dedicated team of correspondents is constantly out on the field searching for reports that matter most to you. Thank you for joining us tonight, and see you next week with more exclusive reports. Have a good night.